right, so today we're going to talk about retail location. And I'll stand behind the podium. Seems different. Seems a little pretentious, but whatever. Anyway, this is lecture 8 of economic geography for those of you listening on tape. Retail location, spaces for selling. So, now I know that logistics stuff is just incredibly thrilling. This will be even better. So keys today is we have to look at different forms of selling. And stores are by no means finished, despite all the talk of Amazon and so on. Though obviously online sales are important, but they're not new either. And we have many different kinds of locations. There's a real geography of retailing in several dimensions that's, I think, quite interesting. Though at the heart of it is maximizing consumer access. Get to your customers. But as we'll see in point 4, you can also create your customers and create consumers. So we'll end up with a little discussion of where demand comes from, where do consumers come from, and landscapes of desire. Before we get there, though, we need to talk about the retail capitalists, who are a major force today, in some ways, a bigger force than the manufacturers that we talk so much about in this course. So, and of course, you're reading a book on Walmart, so that should tell you something about how important I think this topic is. All right, so let's see. Retail is huge. As a percentage, this is a chart by percentage of total employment in 80, 93, 2000 in the Bay Area, Chicago, LA, New York, and nationally. So in 2000, you can see retailing actually is going up as a percentage of employment, which means we were doing even more consuming by 2000 than we were doing in 1980, and using more people to do it. But it's a very considerable percentage. Here we're talking around 10% of total employment in these metro areas in retailing. So that is not inconsiderable. And of course, it is very much about the selling of things, of goods, manufactured goods, though there are parts of retailing that are something else, like haircuts. Although when you get a haircut, as you ladies know, you end up buying a lot of products in plastic bottles and so on. So we have 4 topics today: point of sale, store location, behind the storefront, and landscapes of desire. So we'll start with a simple question of where do you buy things? And I've divided this into general stores, specialty stores, and home shopping. And home shopping is always mostly generalist. Not always, but mostly generalist. Okay, so what do I mean by general stores? Well, in the distant past in the United States, but much more recently in many other parts of the world, you have kind of street bazaars, open markets. We've got a bit of that. I mean, you can go to the garment district in LA and see a pretty amazing scene of street fairs. But mostly this kind of shopping has disappeared. We try to bring it back as a kind of novelty item in farmers markets and so on. But most retailing has moved inside, in a sense. I'll argue that it's still very much outside. So if you've ever watched old cowboy movies, they're always going to the general store. And the general store did not always exist. It is an invention of the 19th century. A store that would have many basic items like flour, what else? Biscuits. I mean, they had general stores. I don't know. You still, after you can travel around rural California, you still stop often. I mean, now it's called candy and pop and ice cream. But you can get a little food. You can get some fishing tackle. I don't know, at these places out in Soda Springs or wherever they are. Yeah, always junk food, right? But by the 1850s, they become department stores. Department stores become the first great, big, large-scale general stores. And that's a very big invention. People in the 19th century in New York or Paris or Philadelphia or London noticed this and were very impressed. And if you read Balzac or other 19th century writers, they're often talking about the sort of wonder of these department stores. The great invention of the generalist store of the early 20th century is the supermarket, which only comes into being in the early 1930s. A huge store for food. Now you just take it as a fact of nature. But there are many parts of the world, most of India and so on, where you have no supermarkets to this day. And then in our time, we have the big box store, the Walmarts, the Targets, and so on, which carry a bit of everything. Clothing, hardware, candles, greeting cards, and increasingly they like to mix food with those items. And over time they get bigger and bigger. Though if you go to some parts of the world, like China, or even in Paris, where I took this picture, you still get a little specialty, a little store in the food realm, a retail generalist. Now, here are some images of classic department stores. That's an old Macy's in New York of the time when they're filming Miracle on 34th Street, which is where Macy's was. And this is Au Bon Marché. I think that's Printemps, or it could be Galerie Lafayette. This is the old Dome in the Emporium in San Francisco. These were all big department stores. And very important in urban landscapes. If you're all interested in urban geography, these things had a huge impact. Now we have mega stores that are up to 200,000 square feet, 50,000, even 100,000 products. I mean, in the Industrial Revolution, the entire array of all products being made by industry was probably less than 10,000, certainly. So one of these stores carries more products than you could buy anywhere in the early 19th century. And even a place like Target still has departments. When you enter the Albany Target, there's plants over here. I know well because my daughter dragged me there 1,000 times. I can tell you where the girls' clothes, the men's clothes, because of course you had to have men's shorts for basketball, and so on, because they would hang down well. You know. So what's the logic of going large? Because these general stores have just gotten larger and larger and larger over time. Well, the logic is volume sales. If you sell a lot, you can make a smaller margin on each item. You can keep your prices low in that way. Now, there are other ways to keep the prices down, but that's one way. Your overhead, I don't know. Yeah, volume sales, your overhead, the building per square foot is cheaper than running the equivalent number of small stores. That's a simple economy of scale. In every way, building costs, heating costs are cheaper in a big box than they are in a whole lot of little independent stores. The variety is a huge draw. As you know, you go to these stores and you can buy 6, 7, 8, 10 different things. And you can get your iPod and your CDs. Well, nobody buys CDs anymore, do they? You can get your greeting cards and then go buy some shorts and then go buy a dress and then go buy some candy and buy a hot dog on your way out and so on. They have a lot of inventory, so they never run out. Little stores will be much more prone to running out of certain products and not being able to keep the flow coming. These stores have huge inventories, most of which is right out on their shelves. Brand name, of course, once you've heard of Walmart, you never forget. And you know what you're going to get when you go to Walmart. And they dominate local markets. So that sometimes there is nowhere else to go for a good bargain or even for certain products. There isn't even an alternative in Cedar Rapids. All right. And I just tacked this on, I don't know why, but I've mentioned it once before about self-service. I think I've used this slide in another lecture. That's really silly. But anyway, self-service has, in these big stores, had a real attraction for consumers, whereas small stores tend to be much more personalized. And for some things you want that personal service, and for other things you don't. Now, are you reading one of our textbooks, or is this really that boring? I guess it is. Anyway, it gives people, there's a sense of freedom in their stores. And I'll talk a bit more about that, a kind of abundance, that sense of being surrounded with the wonder of the fruits of modern industry. And I thought this is quite a cute old Life magazine cover. Now, this is the good life. Oh, here's a picture of the first grocery cart, which I think is in the late 30s. Specialty stores. Okay, they're still very prominent on the landscape, are specialty, or what we often call boutique stores. Okay, which are just the opposite of the general store, because they provide one narrow line of goods in which they are experts. They have a depth of supply and of quality and so on. So they focus on whatever it is, and you get, even Gap has Baby Gap, so that you can focus on its baby clothes, and you don't really want to go to a Target maybe for baby clothes, or if you want fancy baby clothes, you can't get them at Target. Cookware store is still going strong. Wilkes Bashford is an elegant men's store. Cell phones are still done this way. Most of you go to a Verizon store or a T-Mobile store to get your phones. And it was thought for many years that these were disappearing, that the big stores would just gobble them all up. And there was a lot of that. There is a lot of that. We'll talk more about it. But certainly the kind of old artisan represented by the old Parisian bakery or something, you would have thought, well, that would disappear. But in fact, they're still around. And they're still around, and they even have made a comeback in our time, meeting a demand for more luxurious goods, for more craft-like goods, artisanal goods like bread. So you can go to Acme Bakery Shop in Berkeley if you're really into good bread. And the logic of this is you've got a niche market, so where you don't have to compete head-to-head with the big guys who have all their economies. You have economies of scope. That is, you carry just the right line of women's clothing that's going to appeal to a college audience, certain kinds of fashions, and aren't going to appeal to Marin ladies in Mill Valley, but are going to appeal to you on Telegraph or something. You get personal service. In other words, you don't get that impersonal feeling. In most small stores, you can get attention, you can get information. That's often very hard to get in the big stores. You'll find anybody who knows anything about what you're looking at. And, a lot of people, like that kind of personal touch and that intimacy of a small store, Although other people don't like it because it feels like maybe they're breathing down your neck. So you like the impersonal store. Well, this way, because we have both, you can do both. And boutique chains became a big innovation in the 1980s, where the boutiques learned to imitate what the big stores had already done at least 30 to 50 years earlier. I'll talk more about chaining in a second. But the advantages of chaining are huge. And the boutiques figured out, I could get the combination of specialization and economies of scale if I have my array of Gap stores, or Next and Benetton were the first ones. But, it's in everything. It's Laura Ashley, it's Abercrombie & Fitch. You name them more easily than I can. DKNY, I don't know. Do they have stores? Yeah, they don't have stores? Oh, okay. Well, that was a bad one. Anyway, but you can have many, many of them. So you're still mass producing, mass ordering for these stores. But each store offers you that kind of personal attention from the salespeople, who, by the way, are mostly girls, if you haven't noticed, and if you haven't done it yourself. So you get the best of specialization and economies of scale. Now, there is a kind of convergence going on where these specialty boutiques are so large that they can carry a very large array of things. The typical Apple store, which I've got here, has a pretty amazing array of stuff. So is it a specialty boutique, or is it a more kind of semi-general store in electronics? It's a little both. It's a little bit sort of on the edge of the specialty. Whereas something like Home Depot or Orchard Supply, you're going for hardware, or you're going for home furnishings. Okay, so it's kind of specialized. When I want to get pillows and sheets, I go to Bed Bath & Beyond, for example, which is pretty much pillows and sheets and towels and candles and little throw rugs. But it's all that kind of householdy stuff. So unlike Target, which is going to be much more general, it's going to be much more niched into that arena of household, bathroom, bedroom. But it's huge. It's gigantic. Lots of stock, lots of selection, low prices, supposedly. Okay, finally, home shopping. Now, home shopping's gotten a lot of attention in our time, but it's a very old thing. So the internet, it's one of these things where we all think the internet revolutionized everything, and actually it's simply the latest version of catalog sales. See, I can't stand that podium. It's the latest version of catalog sales. And the catalog sales idea is invented in the 19th century by Montgomery Ward's, then Sears and Roebuck coming out of Chicago. Chicago was the real center of innovation in this. And because Chicago was, remember, the rail center and postal center, transport and economic center of the great Midwest, which was this booming part of America in the second half of the 19th century. And out of there, they could ship to rural and small town households, which were still in the millions, which they're not anymore. I mean, the proportion of the U.S. population was much, much greater. Okay, over half the population was outside cities up till 1900 or 1910. Okay, so, getting products out to small towns and isolated farms was something you did through the post office, that great invention of Ben Franklin, the post office, through Railway Express and so on, and out of catalogs. People would order in catalogs, they'd mail in their order and their payment, and money orders, say, taken out at the post office, and Montgomery Ward's would ship you your new pair of shoes, or it could be a shovel, it could be work boots. Now, this still goes on, right? It's targeting households and people who can't get out, or people who don't want to go out. Some people actually don't want to go out and shop. My sister-in-law lives in West LA, has access to one of the great cities of the world, a shopper's paradise, and orders everything from LL Bean. I hope you're not listening, Laura. From LL Bean, which I find astounding. She just loves to do that. She loves to go through the catalog. And when I was a kid, this was still something you did in anticipation of Christmas. You go and get your parents' Sears Roebuck catalog this thick and pour over it and go look at the toys and the footballs and whatever else you wanted. Because you could get anything. They had tens of thousands of items. Well, they still do. These things still thump on your doorstep. The LL Bean or I don't know if Bed Bath does. What do they do? A lot of the brick and mortar stores now have catalogs they mail out and so on. Yeah. They have huge warehouses. And we used to have a great example of this that I would show people in our urban field class. There was this gigantic Montgomery Ward warehouse in East Oakland. It was like 10 stories high, dominated the landscape of East Oakland, because a train line came right in there, just had a spur line in there, and they distributed all over the west from Oakland. But it was torn down. It was regarded as an eyesore by the locals, which was a huge mistake, because it actually was in great shape, and it cost a hell of a lot of money to tear it down. But that's another story. And there are still elderly people who, they got to go pick up the kids, they don't have time to go shopping, or very specialty markets. I suppose Star Wars fanatics must get little Star Wars catalogs or something. I don't know. Do they? Admit it. Come on. Admit that you're one of those. Yes. Okay, there we go. Then there's door-to-door sales, which became very big in the 19th century, and right through my childhood. They're not so present now, and yet they're very big still. People knocking on the door. Well, in Berkeley, they're all asking for money for good causes. But in the old days, it was the Fuller Brush Man or whatever. And there was a movie called The Fuller Brush Man made in the 40s with Bob Hope or somebody like that. But things like milk. This is a picture from Oakland. When I was a kid, they were still delivering milk to your back door, which either means things haven't changed that fast or I'm really, really old. That's pretty hard to do anymore, to see anymore. But a lot of it is household products. And today we still have Tupperware parties. That's a picture of a Tupperware party from looks like the 60s. You get the local women together, and women do most shopping. So somebody shows the products and they have time to look at them and talk about how they'll use them, and off you go. Very successful. More successful than just a stranger knocking at the door. And then there's Amway, which became like this cult. Is it still around? And what's the cosmetics company? Pardon me? Mary Kay still does this? And Avon ladies? The Avon ladies. Ding dong. Avon calling. That was my youth. I don't know if they still do that. But this is an effective way. You get out to your customers instead of waiting for them. Of course, with television and telephones, you could do much more than this. Television selling, huge QVC. There's 3 or 4 of these big shopping channels. As I channel surf through my 75 useless channels, I know there's at least 3 of them locally. And you go zooming by them, and there's always somebody talking about the latest jewelry product. We have infomercials now, which all seem to be for getting better abs. And, but it's often for shut-in people or people who just don't get out much, I guess, or don't have lives. And the telemarketers. Berkeley used to be this huge center of telemarketing. I think the big company here finally went under or moved. But it would hire students or ex-students doing this horrible telemarketing. Now, there's been a lot of clamping down on telemarketing so that people can get their number taken off the list and so on. That's very recent. So telemarketing was huge for years. And I still get some of those. So most of them are from AT&T. So would you like some more of our products? And finally, the internet. So you can see that internet sales build on a very long tradition. It's the same as a catalog sale. You go to this website, you choose your product, you put in your credit card number or whatever, and bingo, 5 days later, in comes a package delivered by FedEx, UPS, Post Office, and anybody else that's around, DHL, and so on. That's not so different than Montgomery Ward. It's just quicker, and our logistics system is more advanced. But what does Amazon got? They got a lot of computers, they got huge warehouses, and they have a brilliant kind of delivery system and management system of this whole logistics. Taking in books. Well, now Amazon, of course, used to be a specialty site, right? And now it's become a general store. You can buy, God knows what you can buy on it. Seems like everything. I don't buy anything on it because I'm still one of those old guys who thinks you should go to a bookstore. Although there is one used book site that I have used. But I try to use our local bookstores. But it's very hard because I pay a lot more. Of course, these guys aren't taxed, which makes them sales tax, which gives them a huge advantage. That was a rule put in to help encourage them in the glory days of .coms in the late 90s, and we're just still trying to get rid of it. It makes absolutely no sense when you're dealing with Amazon. It's craziness, and they've now cut a deal. I guess by 2014, Amazon's agreed to pay sales tax. It's a huge advantage for the online guys. Okay, and the logic of home sales is its ease of shopping. You don't have to go anywhere. You can do it in your pajamas or whatever. It's for people who can't get out or are very isolated. It's a huge advantage. It's a way to get access to your customers with very, very close kind of feedback from your customers and their taste. How Amazon tracks your taste, so it suggests books to you because it knows. You do buy books occasionally, don't you still? Just kidding. And of course, you eliminate the cost of brick and mortar stores and all that apparatus. So it's cheaper for them to run and you avoid sales taxes. But brick and mortar stores have gotten smarter about responding with their own catalogs, websites, so you can find Target online and so on. Okay, wow, did I go into too long about that? Okay, store location. Well, as usual, I find this fascinating, and you don't. But anyway, store location, individual stores, shopping centers, towns and cities, going global. So let's get through this a little faster. The basic logic of store location is access to customers. Your customers are spread out in their houses or in their dorms or their apartment buildings. You want to get to them. So where do you locate? You try and minimize the distance to the maximum number of consumers. And retail location tends to be ubiquitous and repetitive. As I mentioned with central place theory a long time ago, this is the kind of landscape of McDonald's and fast foods. It's just one of these things, or Starbucks, every 25 square blocks or whatever their algorithm is. For what their minimum number of customers is, they'll put another Starbucks to try and lure in some more coffee drinkers. Anyway, so it's very repetitive. If you're more ubiquitous, if you're targeting a lot of little coffee sales, like Starbucks, you're going to locate all over the place. But Target is a much bigger store. It needs many more people. So there's one in Albany. There's one in Richmond. There's one. Where's the next one? Oakland? Where in Oakland? Yeah, out in East Oakland, right? Okay. So they've got to have a bigger market here. Supermarkets a little more often than that, and so on. So it varies about kind of what you think your minimum number of customers. You have a sort of customer shed